Good morning, everybody. Senator Janet Bewley is my very special guest today, Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. A couple of quick programming notes. First, in case you missed it, on Tuesday, my mother, Ben Dryden, aired her monthly Diane's Kitchen show. No, it's not a cooking show, where she had two guests on where they discussed veterans suicide prevention. Diane was joined by Burnett Veteran Service Officer Ella Parker and Community Engagement and Partnerships Coordinator Andrea Sandberg. So if you are a veteran, or perhaps more importantly, if you are a family member of a veteran, I would highly recommend checking that out. It's on our website at DrydenWire.com, on our Facebook page, or you can even go to the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs Facebook page. They had shared it as well. And second note is I just found out late last night that I will be doing a special Meet the Candidate episode tomorrow, Friday, September 24th, when I'll be chatting with Ryan Owens, who has announced his candidacy for Wisconsin Attorney General. I haven't even had the time to find out anything about him. I don't know anything about him. I haven't even had a chance to put up a post, but the announcement will be up later today, so you're hearing it here first. But today I'm chatting with one of my favorite people on the planet, the senator from Wisconsin's 25th District and Senate Minority Leader Janet Bewley. Miss Janet, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. You're always so kind. It's always wonderful to talk to you and to all of your listeners. It's great. And of course, got to ask you, how are your mom and dad? How are they doing?
They're doing great. Dad had seen that you were going to be on this morning, so he wanted to make sure that I told you. He says hi, he sends his love, and he looks forward to your next conversation.
Very good. Me too.
Yeah. Speaking of Dad, former sheriff, Washburn County for 28 years, what kind of... You've told me stories both on the air and privately, not that they were like private conversations in terms of wildly inappropriate. It's just some of our conversations that we have about Dad, stories about him coming into your office when he was down in Madison, and the phone conversations and this mutual respect for the two of you, or that the two of you have for each other. Do you still, so the sheriffs in the 25th district, in your district, I'm assuming some of them at some point must reach out to you for things, emails, phone calls to your office or something. What are you hearing the most right now from sheriffs in the district? What kind of conversations are those? What are the topics about?
Well, first of all, you're right. They do reach out. They're all different personalities. I've got 7 counties, full counties, and parts of a couple more. And they're all very different personalities. Some I've known for quite a long time. And Bayfield County, Barron County, I talk to Chris a lot.
Fitzy,
The sheriff, Chris, is particularly... I have a lot of conversations with him because he's so very active on meth. He does a lot of work on no meth and some of the things that we do in the community. He's there. I mean, he's there all the time. You know, every time I turn around, there's Chris.
Yeah.
So, which is wonderful.
He's
an extremely accessible guy. I find the same is true in Bayfield County, Ashland County. They call mostly, and I will tell you the truth, they call about meth. They call about all of the things that follow what happens when somebody falls into meth addiction, which is, the petty crime. But then there's also calls for abuse and for violence. And then the worst of all is when the family totally dissolves, and then you've got children, and you have to deal with children who can no longer be in the home, which is absolutely tragic and very costly, because we have to pay what they deserve to find placement for them. And, I really appreciate the perspective that the sheriffs give me, because it is a perspective that we don't see. It is exactly what is the burden on the people who serve us, the sheriffs and deputies, the police, when it comes to meth. We know the carnage of the people, of the individual people, but the toll that it takes on the public safety people and the counties themselves in terms of economic cost. They keep me very informed, and I really appreciate that communication.
Is there, so regarding meth, and Chris Fitzgerald, we affectionately call him Fitzy because we do a Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy show 3 Tuesdays of of the month, and
Hmm.
lately we've been talking about meth a little bit more. So when you get these calls and they're talking about meth, or these emails, the communication with sheriffs or chiefs, etc., is there something in your capacity, because you are the senator, of course, but you're also the Senate Minority Leader, so you got juice. Is this
Hmm.
something where, okay, meth, thanks for reaching out to us, law enforcement. Here's what we can do as legislators to help you fight meth, or is it? There's not a whole lot. We can't pass a bill to make meth go away.
Right, right.
Is it one of those? It's nice to hear it and it's good to hear, but there isn't really anything directly that we can do. Which that's never a good answer. But at the same time, is there anything that legislation or legislators can do to help fight
I
meth?
think so. I think so, and I really do. I think that when you look at what happens once someone becomes addicted, that's you're too late. I mean, the meth addiction, we do everything we can to get people in treatment. There is not enough treatment. The what you have to go through for a family to get someone to agree to go to treatment, very, very hard. We don't have medically assisted treatment like we do with opiates. So there's no, it's very, very hard to treat. So what we have to do is prevent, and that takes education. It takes the attention that we have to put to children. That that's what costs money.
Sure.
For every extra arm that goes around a child that in need, for an additional hour of personal contact in a school, that costs money. We know that the teachers do not have a spare minute. We're probably going to be taking up legislation next week that adds two new things that teachers must teach. And I want I want to be able to add to what is taught in the schools, but the teachers are saturated with what they have to do now. We can't keep giving them more to do, and then we complain when kids don't hit the mark. When we have an achievement gap. So just making the existing teachers do more isn't going to work. We need the kind of thing that is going to make sure we've got healthy, stable children coming into the school system starting when they're 3. I mean, I know that sounds early, but we've got to make sure that kids are fed, that they're in a stable home, that they've got warm clothing. We think that that is something from a different century, but it's not.
Mm.
Families find themselves in circumstances where they desperately need help. Many of them are trying to survive on a minimum wage job or even two minimum wage jobs in a family. That it's not enough to live on, and the children are the ones who suffer. And when you have a kid who just can't get that kind of attention that we used to be able to give children back when I was growing up, when there was a parent in the home all the time, my mom. My dad made enough and for to support the family, but you can't do that today. You have to
Yeah.
have both parents. So it's meth is hard.
So I wrote down. I want to circle back to that at some point here. The two new things: legislation, teachers. I don't want
Right.
to gloss over that.
Okay.
But a couple more things here then on meth. Is meth? Do you believe is that from what you're hearing, your colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, down in Madison, is meth a northern Wisconsin thing? Obviously, in your district, which is largely our DrydenWire coverage area, is your
Mhm.
25th Senate district. Is this a Northwest Wisconsin problem, or is this a statewide problem?
It's a statewide
Okay.
problem, but I would say that we have more. The percentage of the drug of choice in northern Wisconsin is meth,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it is other drugs in other parts of the state.
Okay.
And the other thing is that other parts of the state have access to services that we don't. We don't have, I mean, we have to rely on sheriff departments. In the other parts of the state, they have cities with police. So there's police all over the place. We don't have, I mean, not that many towns have police. We use sheriff and deputies primarily for drug enforcement. Ashland, Superior, Rice Lake, Barron, they have police, but by and large, if you're going to drive around a county, it's the county sheriff and the deputies that do all the work. And we just don't have access to treatment. Again, meth treatment is very hard, and it just, quit using it is difficult. But if we just had the staffing to be there, to be advocates, to be a part of the education, if we just had more of whatever it is we're doing, we'd be better off.
Yeah.
But the funding is thin.
Fitzy, in our last shows a couple weeks ago, with our Positive Tuesday show with Sheriff Fitzgerald and myself, and I think we had a guest. I think it was Dave Armstrong that was actually on. He wasn't on in his capacity as a representative. He was on his capacity as the executive director of the Barron County Economic Development Corporation. So that's what he was on for. And Fitzy had brought up something that I've found quite profound. He had said 0% of meth in Barron County, and I think that could be probably applicable to a Washburn, a Sawyer, a Burnett, because we're all, just a community here. But he was speaking specifically of Barron, that 0% of the meth in Barron County is made in Barron County.
Oh, no, none of it's made here anymore.
That just kind of blew me away. I'm like, there's got to be, I think a reference like Breaking Bad, some dude in his garage or RV or something just cooking this stuff up. Kind of find out that wasn't true. But he did kind of go back a little further, and he did talk about, the southern border, about with that's happened. So I want to just ask your opinion about that so we can kind of move off of this. But with President Biden's I don't know what you would call it, his policies, immigration, et cetera, and what's happening in the southern border right now, how much of a role do you think that is or has been, or maybe right now, because there has been an influx of meth in our area recently, how much of a part of the U.S., the southern border, is playing a role for meth and the influx of meth in northwest Wisconsin?
Well, first of all, there is a problem at the border, obviously. Border security is a part of the meth problem. When meth comes into the country, it is a different system. It's a different kind of path that it takes than individual people and families coming across the border. The migrants who are coming across the border are usually not the ones who are carrying the large quantities of meth.
Sure.
It is another kind of delivery system that's far more covert because it's in larger shipments. Boats are typically involved, and it isn't at the pedestrian crossings where most of the meth would come in. It would be smuggled in via a legal way, a truck that can make it through the border and everything is all clear. It's not the illegally crossing the border. It's someone who can legally get across is finding a way to smuggle it across. So yes, it is a border thing, but the players are very sophisticated, and it's not somebody who wants to get out of Mexico and into the United States to get a better job. It's a different system.
So again, I do want to get back to those two things that you had mentioned, legislation for teachers. But before that, I have a nice little segue here. So meth, we've been talking about it more and more on our Ben and Fitzy show. And I kind of akin this to COVID right now, where we're all tired of hearing about it. COVID and meth. We're tired of hearing about it. We're tired of seeing it. But the funny thing is, it didn't go away. COVID is still here. Meth is still here. We have to have these discussions. So leading into COVID, where are we right now, do you believe? Just give us the state of Wisconsin, or maybe northwest Wisconsin, your area, or if you want to do Wisconsin's fine. Where are we right now in this COVID and the vaccine battle?
I think that, we're pretty typical of the nation. We have our areas where I travel throughout the state a lot, and I can go into one area, go into a gas station, and everybody's wearing masks. Everybody. Or a Walmart in one part of the state. Everybody's wearing a mask. Go to a different Walmart in another part of the state, nobody's wearing a mask. And so that tells
Hmm.
me that it is very socially driven. It is driven by what are my neighbors doing and what do I feel comfortable with.
Hmm.
So if you go into a Walmart, I think it's more about being part of your peer group, being part of the group of people that you
Interesting.
live with. And we have different levels of tolerance of this infectious thing called COVID in different parts of the state. You can go somewhere and I'm in Madison right now, and I can't even go down the hallway of the building that I live in without wearing a mask.
Hmm.
I mean, I have to wear a mask just to take my recycling out. And it's the accepted behavior here. That's how they do it. In another place, maybe in Madison, but certainly in other parts of the state, you don't even wear a mask when you're going into a store. And that's just the way it is. Now, I don't know what that says about the transmission of meth because it's transmitted a lot, and we don't do the kind of tracing we used to. And it's a different variety. It's the delta. It's hitting kids more. So I don't know if our data is really up to the minute in terms of what's what's happening right now. I do know where the pressure points are, and one of them is schools. Schools is probably the hardest one to navigate right
Yeah.
now because you're dealing with parents who make the decision and the kid who has to follow the orders.
Right.
Everywhere else is like it's about just about me. Am I going to wear a mask or am I not going to wear a mask? But when you're a parent, you have to make a decision, and then you got to make your kid do
Yeah.
one or the other, and then they have to interact. So it's doubled or tripled, if whatever, depending on how
Yeah.
many kids you have.
Yeah, I kind of wish schools. I think they kind of already do. I know there's going to be some board meetings, even our area, coming up soon. School board meetings where they're going to be discussing masks. Um, what I never want is, the kids. Some are choosing to wear a mask and some aren't. That's just another thing that separates kids,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. And it is what it is. My daughter, or one of our children, Riley, a couple weeks ago, actually 13 days ago, we've been counting. She got sent home because she had a close contact with someone at the Spooner Middle School.
Yeah.
So she was home, and whatever, she was fine. But then she was really dealing with this emotionally. I don't know why, but she was emotional, like crying almost, like I'm gonna get COVID
Yeah.
and die, kind of a thing. And we were like,
Hmm.
what? Relax, it's
Hmm.
fine. So then
Hmm.
my wife had to, and she has been working from home, really more not just to help her with schoolwork because she's very precocious. She can do her work just fine, but it's more for the mental part of it. And then Kenneth, my son, who just had his 12th birthday yesterday, he developed a sniffles, which is a symptom, right? But we all did that one morning because we had the windows open and got cool at night. We all woke up with some
Hmm.
sniffles. Went and got them tested. Everyone is negative for it, but they all have to stay at home, and they have been for a while. And then it's kind of getting old, but again,
Hmm.
going back to the meth, relating meth to COVID, it's one of those things we're all tired of, but it still isn't gone yet.
Right.
Going back to your comment that you said about in some parts of the state that you go to, you see a lot of people wearing masks, and other parts you
Hmm.
don't. You talked about peer groups. I don't want to make this about politics. I really don't, but I gotta ask this: in the areas you go to, that you don't see a lot of people wearing masks, would you describe that as typically more of a rural area, potentially more of a conservative slash Republican base? That's typically where they are. Is that what you are finding, or it's really just random?
I think that it's probably both. I think in some cases it's driven by it's related to, but we know that rural populations tend to be more conservative, and so
Yeah.
then you add wearing a mask and you layer that, so they're correlated, but they're not causal.
Mm,
Being you
sure.
don't wear a mask because you're a Republican,
Got it.
but they are related, but they don't it's not a cause and effect.
That makes sense.
The other thing is that if you take the very same people and you put them in a different environment, I don't know if anybody's flown lately,
No, I haven't anyway.
but I know that when you're in an airport, that's not all Democrats. They're not. They're
Right,
everybody.
right.
Everybody flies.
Interesting.
Everyone wears a mask. You do not fly. You don't even get in the airport if you don't have a mask on. You don't. You have to wear a mask. And people do. No complaint. I want to fly. I'll wear a mask. So it is very dependent upon the circumstance, and we don't talk about that.
I never thought about it. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. If everybody else is
And
doing it, that's just kind of how our
yeah,
society works. If
the
everybody else is doing it,
plane
okay, I probably will
the
too.
yeah, but now they say there's a lot of fighting on planes, and the fist fights and stuff. So I'm sure that the conversation is taking place,
Yeah.
but it seems like, oh yeah, I have to fly. Yeah, I'll wear a mask. I need to get
Yep.
to
Yep.
Pittsburgh. I'm going to wear a mask, and it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were flying with your children, uh, and you're going to Disneyland, I don't think you're going to say, we're not wearing a mask.
Right.
You
Yeah. We
know,
want to get to where we want to go. So if that's what you have to do,
yeah, exactly. And so
it's fun.
I don't think we talk about that. I don't think, and then it's like, if you change your mind and do one or the other, are you being um, disloyal to some sort of set of values?
Mm.
No, you're being human, which is, if you're in this situation and it's not going to be an issue to do one thing or another, you're going to kind of go along with it. If you personally are extremely convinced one way is more important than the other, you're going to do it. But by and large, people just want to get by. They don't want to be healthy. They don't want to have hassles. Some of them don't like to be told what to do. We have to pay attention to that. But I think we're getting better. I really do. I'm getting the sense that people are, like you say, they think this is getting old. And I think in a lot of cases, when something is getting old, you can remain very worried about it and very focused on it without letting it
Yeah.
overwhelm your day-to-day thoughts. And I hope that's where we're
Yeah.
going now.
Deep thoughts with Janet Bewley. We need to have that for a segment now, going forward. I love it. Absolutely love it. That was brilliant. I never even thought about that. That is excellent. We have a question here from Mary Hills. Now, we got to be careful how I answer this because I'm pretty sure this was a topic that Adam Jarko had brought up on one of our recent Politically Speaking shows with Adam and Patty Schochner that got us removed from YouTube for maybe saying something they didn't think was accurate. Obviously, you're not a medical expert, but wearing a mask, I think Adam had brought up something about the N95 masks, and I don't want to actually say what it is because I don't want to get banned.
Sure.
But that those are the ones that really only worked, and the other ones not so much. And Patty, of course, pushed back because I know that wasn't right. From your understanding, where are we with masks? How much benefit do they have, and does it have to be a certain kind, or anything works?
I'm not a scientist, but I do try to get my information from a very wide variety of sources. So I listen to things on the right, I listen to things on the left, so that I can say, well, I heard this, and I heard this, and I heard this. I have heard that most scientists are going to say a mask um, is going to affect the transmission of the virus. They will affect it. If you wear the best kind all the time and never take it off, the chance of transmission is much less
Sure.
than if you just have a bandana and it falls off of your face half the time.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, one is going to work better than the
Sure.
other. So it's all, if you're going to wear a mask, you also have the ability to say, am I going to wear it well, or am I just going to just put it on my face and then take it off? I do think they affect the transmission. I really do. I don't think they're perfect. Nothing is perfect. But I just know that if you look anywhere, the operating rooms, if you look back into even during the wars, anybody who goes into where sick people are, they wear masks, they wear gloves, they cover themselves up.
Good
So
point.
it just seems to me to be kind of logical that if you know how it's being spread, which is through, the mostly it'll attach to water molecules, like when you sneeze or when you breathe or something. Um, the normal thing we do is cover up so that it doesn't spread, get on our hands, get in our
Right.
eyes and
Same
mouth.
reason you cover your mouth when you sneeze, right? You just don't
Mhm.
want to throw those germs out there. You're trying to
Mhm.
prevent that stuff from getting out.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
several things I wanted to get to, but I need to go back and circle around to the two things. So, some legislation next week. You said two things. Now I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was about teachers or what
Right.
you want them to start teaching. What are those two things? And what is this bill? Do you happen to know what it is, or is it just in the memo phase right now? I mean, how is this
No, they're
working?
bills.
Okay.
They're bills, and they've had hearings, and I believe these are going to be exec, meaning the committees are going to vote them out. And if they're voted out and they are approved by the committee, they could be scheduled for the floor.
Okay.
And um, so we're both the Senate and the Assembly is going to the floor next week. We do not have the calendar. We'll get the calendar tomorrow. So I'll see if those bills are on it. But there are two bills that have to do with what is taught in our schools.
Okay.
The first one is about required civic education, that in addition to the required teaching of what is state government, which takes place in fourth grade, there will, if this bill passes and is not vetoed, there will be a more defined requirement of civic engagement, of what is appropriate for an American citizen to literally feel about being in this country, being a citizen, and
Interesting.
how they interact as a patriotic citizen.
Sure.
So some feel it goes a little too far in saying it, we're going to teach you how to be a good American. And some people are saying, whoa, wait a minute, who, what? And who gets to decide what that content is? Well, the legislature wants to decide. They want to tell you to how to teach what it means to be a good citizen, or a good
Interesting.
American. I think it's important. It's about the patriotic element of it. Um,
Is this
so
real
that's a
quick? Is this
different, that would be a
have
different topic.
more Republican backing support, or is this more Democratic backing and support, or it's universally? Uh, it doesn't matter. Some of them like them, some of them don't. But this isn't really being pushed by one party or the other.
What do you think? What do
Uh,
you think?
I'm gonna say, just America. I'm just guessing here. I'm gonna say Republicans are probably the ones. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I got one right. It just sounds, I mean, pro-America, and this is not that Democrats aren't pro-America. It just,
Right.
I don't know, I think just about anybody, in the way that you described it, it sounds like that would be
Yeah.
something probably more
Yeah.
Republican.
Yeah.
What's the second thing?
It talks about what gender, education, and sexual identity. And this is a different one.
Wow.
It's what you can't teach. So it won't add more time in the classroom, but it will add more time to go through all the different
You
places where
can't
something
teach.
about gender identity or sexual orientation is brought up. And then the school or the teacher's going to have to decide, am I allowed to say that?
Give me an
And
example, like what, or a scenario.
homosexuality,
In terms of what they
trans,
can't say, I mean, right? Because this is about what they can't teach.
what they
So, like,
can't
what would the scenario
teach.
be that, like, a kid just ask a question in class, or what does that look like if that got passed?
That's exactly the problem. So what is teaching, and where does it come in? And those are the very sorts of things that people were saying. Like if you've got just a really curious kid who's thinking, kind of internally, and then they go, well, what does it mean to be Trans. What is that? Is that gay? Are you allowed to answer that question? Is
You
the
know,
teacher allowed?
that's a great question because I don't know the answer to that. I mean, if
Yeah,
those conversations are being had
exactly.
with the teacher, because ideally you would think that the teacher is has no agenda here, is completely unbiased, has no it's. But I'm going to answer factually. This is what it means. I mean, you could just look in the dictionary, or
Mhm,
well, maybe not. But boy, that is a great question. I don't know if
mhm.
those conversations should be had. But then again, I'm not necessarily saying that they shouldn't be happening. I think those are
Yeah.
questions I would like, for children and parents to discuss more than teachers at the same. Well, I don't know. Where do you land on that one?
Well, I think that number one, parents always have the opportunity to talk to their kids about everything.
Right.
Many parents don't want to because they're uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Many parents would want to give their kids the information that they think will keep them um, within their values where they
Sure.
are right now. And that is absolutely the number one place. The
Yeah.
number one place is at home.
Hmm.
But what if it isn't happening at home? And it's not that the parents are not choosing to, but nobody's doing it. And if the kid has, where's the kid supposed to go? And if it's
Right.
basic things about reproduction, or what's going to happen to my body, um, I think more harm could come if a child doesn't know
I
than
mean,
if,
yeah.
yeah, if they didn't know, and God forbid something happened and they didn't know that they should be afraid of this, or they shouldn't, and they had no education at all. Um, I would feel that we would start to look, well, where do we put the blame? And I don't want to blame anybody.
I
I
get
just
it.
want kids to be safe and well rounded and have the information that they
Yeah,
need to
it's
be
kind of like
healthy.
they health class, and actually, it's been a long time, so I don't know if they do this, if they're allowed to or not. But health class talking about sex, to kids and what this all means. It's not like, hey, go have sex or don't have sex, or at least please. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments about they do teach one thing and not another, which I don't know. I don't know anything
Right.
about it. But
Yeah.
that's just factual stuff. I would rather have them know. I want them to understand what some of the slang words mean. So, especially like trans and everything else, as long as presented in a way that these are just the facts. This is what it is. That may help just some of that understanding. So when they're out in the
Right.
playground and they're hearing
Yeah.
things, they can go, you know what, dude, that's not cool. Right now,
Hmm.
that's like in a perfect world, but yeah, I agree. It has to start at home. We have conversations.
Yeah.
We're a family of faith. We talk about God, but we also talk
Hmm.
about it's not our job to judge other people. We
Hmm.
accept everyone for who they are, and it is what it is. We talk about homosexuality and trans. We talk about all these things at home, but you're right. Not every family
Mm-mm.
does, either because they don't want to. Well, that's probably a lot. That's a tough conversation to have if you don't have that
That's right.
open
Yeah.
dialogue.
Yeah.
By the
No,
way,
it is,
is
and I think that those of us that have that, or like in your household, that's a very fortunate situation. That's a very fortunate situation. You have two loving adults in the home that spend time with their kids. Okay, two loving
that's rare.
adults in the
That's
home who
nowadays.
spend
Yeah,
time with their kids.
yeah, we're blessed.
How many households are that?
That's a. I don't know. Real quick, there that first thing you wrote, or we talked about the required civic education. Is that what's some considered critical race theory, or is that a completely different thing? Because I don't know anything about critical race theory. What's being called that? It's we could
That
talk about that at a
that
different, if you want, at a different time. Is that what that is?
There is a bill out there, but that's not coming up right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
No,
Got it. Well,
no.
we're already getting, we're already over 30 minutes. So I really wanted to talk more about those things, but I just want to, we'll go through these quickly. I just want your first opinions, your thoughts on a few things. First, Rebecca
Okay.
Clayfish, she had announced that she was running for governor. Everybody knew that she was going to like a year ago.
Mhm.
What are your first reactions and thoughts and opinions or views about Rebecca Clayfish?
I'm not surprised. She has been, she's a very ambitious
Hmm.
person. She's smart. She knows how how to been involved in broadcast news, so
Right.
she knows how to do it. She knows how to deliver a message. And so and she does it well. So I would say that people are going to need to look behind the very polished
Sure.
and image, and go deeper and ask her questions, because she can answer them. So don't I don't think she will want to be let off the hook with giving you the deep answer just because she's got such a polished image.
Mm.
She's going to want to go deeper, and people should really give her that chance. Don't just judge her. You
Yeah.
go ask her questions.
Sure.
That's the important thing.
Another one is Jonathan Wickman. He's at least the last I checked, he's the only other Republican to announce his intentions or his candidacy for governor. I know he has a very large online support and following. I don't know if you know much about him, but your first thoughts and reactions, or your first thoughts and opinions of Jonathan Wickman.
Well, first of all, I would say that you will typically find in Democratic primaries a much wider pool of people who enter into a primary for an open seat. Republicans make a lot of those decisions and do self-screening, and they check things out well in advance, and they're not, which people might say, well, that makes it easy for me. Democrats want to say, let the people decide. You decide. I have just as much a right to go run as anybody else. Republicans are going to want to keep their pool small. And so a lot of the weeding out, in a way, happens kind of behind the scenes. And only a few people, very often just one, will end up. And very often there's no primary for Republicans.
Yeah, they are very organized. I'll give them that. Just saying. And that's what's interesting about Jonathan Wickman, because there's a show, I don't know, kind of like this, right? It's just a media show down in, I think it's Milwaukee, maybe it's Madison. And this is the first time I've seen it. It was right after Rebecca Clayfish had announced, and even right before, they'd said that she's probably going to announce. And everyone said she'll be the first Republican announcement. No, but there literally is another one. Like, there's actually another person who has already announced his candidacy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's going to have a chance. It's going to be, odds don't look very good for Jonathan Wickman, but not even getting recognized. That's just crazy. There is another candidate already.
And it is because, again, they're very disciplined. When you make that decision, you make to run in a primary. A Democrat, like I said, is going to say, okay, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, as they say.
Yeah.
Republicans are far more cautious, and they check with their party members and see where they're going to go. And there is rarely a surprise, because you typically don't do that if you're a Republican. They don't like surprises. So Wickman's got a lot of guts going up against Clayfish.
Yeah, good for him. Exactly. Governor Evers, 3 years now? He's almost 3 years now. His first term. What grade would you give him?
Oh, I don't like to assign grades.
Oh, okay. How's he doing?
I think he's doing extremely well.
Sure.
Under the circumstances.
Sure.
I think that some of the hardest decisions for the governor was with the COVID money. And when the COVID money was distributed to the states, thank God that we got it, because I don't think I don't think the states would have made it through without that, the payroll money, all the money that we got, and now the infusion of money that we're going to be able to spend on infrastructure. And that is already here, not the one that they're discussing now. But that money that must be decided by governors. And they had to decide. And he did it very thoughtfully. And he did it, I think, in a way that almost everybody, every sector, was touched in some way, from tourism in the Wisconsin Dells all the way to libraries and businesses and bars and restaurants. Everybody was helped in some way. And it took a lot of work, a lot of thought, and a lot of discipline, but he has almost allocated every penny of it. And it's all done extremely well.
It's funny. I think you just answered my other question about Evers, which was what one decision has Evers made since he's been our governor that you thanked God we had a Democrat as a governor and not a Republican? Is that it? What he has done with COVID money?
I think he's done the COVID money very well. I really do. But let me think. I mean, and I think he's used the veto very well. I apologize for not being able to just sort of say something off,
Oh,
but
that's fine.
because I can't think of one right now. But
Right.
there were many
Every
things.
decision, pretty
There
much.
were,
There you go.
right in this environment,
Yeah.
a Republican could use the fact that the governor can veto as a way to kind of stick it to him. Like put something out there. He's going to have to veto, even though it's not popular, but he has to. So I would say for the most part, it's done well, and it hasn't caused any explosions.
Are you running for re-election for the 25th?
I am planning. I am working on it.
Planning. Such a political answer, I tell you.
Well, yeah.
As of
Well,
right
see,
now.
you know, I am, I, I am the minority leader, and
Yes, that's
I
it.
wish we could have a whole thing. Is it different being minority leader? Yes,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
different.
and that's
We
why
have a
I
whole show
shouldn't
on
have.
that.
I have this down actually was to discuss this. I should have had this the first thing to talk about because that's you
Yeah,
in doing that. So how does that work? So as of right now, you're saying that my intentions are to run
to run.
as of now, but
Yeah,
tomorrow I can wake
yeah,
up and change my mind.
yeah.
But you get voted in not from citizens, but you get elected. How does that work again? And how you got to be the Senate Minority Leader?
I was assistant minority leader before,
Okay.
and then the current minority leader then was Senator Jen
Yep.
Schilling, and she left the legislature, and so I think the caucus decided let's just be smooth. We did hold an election, and it's the caucus who decides.
And you
The
lost, so now you're
caucus
the Senate
now,
Minority Leader. Got it.
yeah, and so I went from being assistant leader to minority leader. So that
Sure.
means I lead the Democrats in the Senate. So I'm the leader
Yeah.
of the Democrats in the Senate, and my counterpart is Devin Lemahue. So he's the
Right.
majority leader. But we get along really well, by the way.
Oh,
So
do you? I've never spoken with him.
oh yeah, yeah.
Well, that's good to hear,
No, I
right? Seriously, that's great.
hmm?
We
Oh
want to,
yeah.
yeah.
No,
Um,
it's true. It's
as
true.
the
I respect the guy.
as the Senate Minority Leader, is there something that again, we should really just have like this whole show about everything that entails and what you do
Yeah.
that is different from your capacity as the senator in the 25th. But is there something now that it's been what over a year, almost a year and a half now, right? That you've been
Hmm.
the Senate Minority Leader. Is there something that you are most proud of? Something that you look back and go, I'm so glad I was able to be here to spearhead this, to make sure this got done. No matter what, even if next year I'm not here for whatever reason or nothing else happens, I'm so happy we got this done.
Well, I think that we were able again to get funding for education, and again that was we could spend time, but do you remember the whole time we were talking about during the budget maintenance of effort
Yep.
for schools? Okay,
Hmm.
that was about to cripple us, and I think that we did a very good job of the quiet, hard work of working with in a bipartisan way, certainly not a nonpartisan, but in a bipartisan way, to make it very clear that everyone could agree we got to fix this.
Yeah.
We have to keep up the maintenance of effort, or we were going to lose out in billions of money of
Bipartisan.
education.
I think you just made up that word. There's no such thing as bipartisan. But
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
that's not a fun
Yeah,
topic to talk about, though.
no, I'll tell you one thing that I really
Sure.
love. It was the one of my proudest moments is being able to acknowledge that PTSD, or the trauma that happens when you are going through an extremely dangerous job, is real, and it was not covered by workers' comp for police officers and firefighters or anything. So if you have you have an extremely traumatic job. But if you need help, it wasn't covered.
What?
We passed a bipartisan bill, Senator Vanguard and I, and then two Democrat and Republican in the Assembly, and we passed it.
That's awesome. That's kind of a big oversight. Right?
That's huge.
What?
It's like saying, I got to take a break. I'm about to crack. I'm going to commit suicide. Well,
we're not paying
you're
you for
going to have to take a leave of absence then, you bad cop.
Yeah.
I need help.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
you go. We'll pay for it.
Yes.
We'll pay for it.
Good for you getting
It's
that done.
covered.
That's awesome.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
even know about that.
Oh, yeah. It
Brilliant.
was great.
Brilliant.
It was really, really wonderful.
We had, you and I could just talk forever. And that's why we try not to have a whole lot of phone conversations because they just last forever as well. We could talk forever.
You don't let me know what the listeners' questions are. There's another listener. We don't have time for that.
We don't have any time for that stuff. We need to do this a lot more often. Having you back on. But any last words? I know, again, we covered a lot of things. There's so much more that we could cover, but is there anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about that you wanted to make sure that you brought up?
Just that I have a lot of faith in people, and I have a lot of faith in society. If you feel like I do that we're starting to make a little traction on being on the anger that people are starting to climb out of that, keep doing it because it's one by one. It's one heartbeat at a time. We're going to get through this. We're going to get to a place where we're going to be okay.
You think so?
It will be all right. I do. I really do.
Huh.
I really do.
I hope so. I think when Trump was in office, a lot of people talked about society and media talked about that he's creating, and very well did or could have, I'm not going to argue that point, that created more of a divisiveness in our society. Well, he hasn't been in office for a while, been over 3 years, and I still see it. In fact, I think it's almost worse now than it was before, and a lot of people thought, okay, now Biden's in, hopefully that'll go away. I still see it everywhere. I don't think we'll ever go away from that. I think it's just going to continue to get worse. Because I'm an optimist, right? That's not pessimistic of me. I'm an optimist. What's that joke that when an optimist and a pessimist were next to each other and there's a situation that was really bad and the pessimist said, boy, things just can't get any worse. And the optimist said, oh, yes, they can. See, that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Well, they're never going to be the way they were. And I think that if people want things, if getting better is going back, you're never going to be happy because it's never going to be the same. But it'll be something new, and we can make it something better. But we can't go backwards.
I love talking to you. I love talking to you, Janet. You're one of my favorite people on the planet. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Likewise, Ben. I hope we can do it again soon.
Yeah, no kidding. We definitely need to. Special thank you to my guest today, the senator from the 25th District and Senate Minority Leader, Janet Bewley. And, of course, thank you for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for a special Meet the Candidate episode when I'll be chatting with Ryan Owens, who has announced his candidacy for Wisconsin Attorney General. Until then, stay safe, stay positive, and have a blessed day.